All right, all right. Welcome back to the Top Agent Podcast. Today, I have Fidel Gonzalez from the Gonzalez Group and Nexum Mortgage on. And we're going to get into why loan officers and real estate agents are defecting. Why are they leaving the industry? I'm not saying that we're unhappy about it, but we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about these career agents versus non-career agents and kind of what the market has done to do this when we get back. Welcome to the Top Agent Podcast, where we bring you raw and unedited content to help create and connect top agents from across the globe. I'm your host, Tom Tillier. Let's get started. All right, Fidel.
What's up? What's up, Tommy? What's going on with you, man?
Oh,
Thanks
man.
for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being on, dude. I'm very, very excited. You know, we do a lot of talking. We do a lot of things together. But every conversation that we have is good, and there's multiple different conversations that we have about different things. But this one is really interesting to me because you have a take on it, you have an outlook on it, and it's very similar to my outlook. But what do you think? What's happening in the industry right now where we're losing career agents? Or are we losing career agents? Are we just losing agents? Are we losing loan officers because they weren't career agents? What's your take?
I think it's a premise built on the fact of we've just went through what I like to call a 3-year super cycle, right? We went through 3 years of something we've never seen before, ever, right? So we had easy money, easy everything, liquidity just flushed the market, and we had everybody kind of jump in saying, "Hey, we're going to be it." So I don't really think it's career agents or loan originators that we're losing. It's those who jumped in with the expectation of that being the norm. Now, as we kind of arrive at, return to the mean or more normalcy, then we start saying, well, when the market returns or when that's not returning. And it shouldn't necessarily, unless there's something just completely crazy again, which is frankly, I don't think the Fed has that in them anyway anymore. They can't. We already have an inflation problem, right? So we can't just go, hey, here's all this money. Let's go create this fictitious world or sugar rush. So I don't really think it's the career agents. I think it's more so the folks that might have gotten into this with the wrong mindset or frame of mind, saying that this is what it really is. And you know what? To be honest, those years weren't exactly the easiest. Everybody thinks it was, how many times have you been told, oh, you must be it must be amazing. It must be awesome. Your market's so crazy. It was too crazy too, right? It was too hard sometimes to get people to actually be able to buy a home. It was nuts.
It was, and I always tell the story that with every listing, no matter what it is, you had 40 phone calls when it goes live. You have 40 phone calls before they show it. You have 40 phone calls while they're there, and 44 phone calls after. And 20 offers, and the 20 offers, you're going to break 19 hearts.
Right.
It wasn't fun.
And who knows? Oftentimes you found people kind of getting into desperation and bending a little bit of the truth. Let's just say, we're not going to say necessarily maybe flat out lying, bending the truth a bit, right? Like we say we went in with the conventional, and all of a sudden you realize it's an FHA. I heard those horror stories coming along from my agent partners and things that short, right? Where it's like, hey, we thought it was this, and it turned out to be this, and then it turned out to be that these people had cold feet, and it was a mess.
Then all the new agents would come in, and and their family members would call them up, or something would happen where they didn't know what they were doing, and they're like Tommy Boy, right? Like when this happened.
Well, then I get all excited. I'm like JoJo, the idiot circus boy with a pretty new pet.
And that's what it was. Every time they got a listing, it was like JoJo, the circus boy, right? It was a miserable. While everybody was doing okay, and the interest rates were low, there was an inventory problem, and now there's not an inventory problem, but the interest rates are higher.
Yep.
I say higher. They're not by any means out of control. They're still manageable, still affordable.
It's just a change in it's like getting real again, where we don't have a fictitious market being held down by, endless printing by the Fed per se, right? And it's not like they were legitimately printing. It's just how they're able to manipulate and invest and control the interest rates. And now they have to let that go and raise them because it was too crazy, right? We had a 40%, let's just say it was like 42%. I forget exact the figure, increase in the money supply, the dollar supply. Coincidentally, a lot of the housing in a lot of areas was up about 40%, right? Other places double, and it just depends too, because real estate's, we know the thing, location. So other places are going to go higher, than others. And it becomes much more of a neighborhood. It goes all the way down even to neighborhoods, right? It's not just zip codes, neighborhoods, areas, what's around. So it's a lot more complex than just saying, oh, the average house went up 40% over the last 3 years. What's kind of right and ties in right to line with the amount of money that was pushed into the system. So it's kind of ironic that you see that. And now they go, let's turn the vacuum on and let's pull some of that liquidity out. And what are we starting to see? Some cracks and some changing in the overall market.
So there's no question Fidel is top loan officer, mortgage broker, right? Because he is a career guy. He is not somebody here that's just here to take advantage of a good market.
Yeah, 2% rates.
Yeah, he's not 2% rate loan originator.
It was nice. Don't get me wrong. Everybody was making, whoever did buy has something you probably shouldn't touch ever, right? But life happens, and that's just how it works, right? So,
well, tell everybody. What's fascinating is when you start telling me about the cycle. And so the rates go up a little bit, then the rates come down, and then the rates come down, and then the rates go up. Mm-hmm. And so that cycle affords mortgage brokers and consumers to refinance.
Yeah. So I mean, we can't in today's market, right? We have a lot of uncertainty, right? We have what some of us in Main Street world, right? Just setting our sides, taking our loan originator hat, taking our real estate hat off, and just being a consumer and a general American citizen. The temperature or the climate of everybody is, hey, things have gone up. Inflation has impacted the cost of food and many things that we need on a daily basis, right? What we've seen now, though, is we have a fear of what's happening, and we all kind of feel like we're already in this recession, even though it's not technically rubber stamped as as a recession already, but we kind of get a sense that that's happening. And if you look, and this is not like, you get people that's going to say, hey, you're too negative, too positive, and I'm more of a neutral kind of guy. And what I mean by that is you analyze the data. What is the data telling you? And you understand a little bit about what's happening, but you really can't predict the future. It's easy to go back and point backwards and say, oh, that was crazy, though that shouldn't have been happening. But hindsight's 2020. So you got to stop and think, okay, so rates are up. We know that at a certain point the Fed has to go the other way. And the reason they rose it is to control and try to slow things down and stop that runaway demand, in essence, right? Because money was too free. And then, when they put a little stop on it, things kind of start leveling down and that sugar rush starts coming down. It's like your kids, right? You pump them up at Halloween, they get a bunch of sugar, they run around like maniacs, and eventually they got to go. That's the moment we're at right now. So we're adjusting to the new norm, or actually more of the norm, right? I got to ask you, as an agent, right? It was like, hey, what's the normal process of listing a home? How long, right? If subtract the last 3 years out of this, when you list a home, you're not generally going to get 20 offers. That's just not the norm over the historical long frame of housing, right? So that was actually abnormal. And I think that takes time for the homeowners, the sellers and buyers to kind of recognize that new pattern, or for them, it might be new because they, for a consumer and everybody, it's always what's lately and not what's now, or what was that whole time frame, because they don't do it on a daily basis like you and I. Yeah. What was that? What was that? What was an average let's just say, let's go back to 18, middle of 19. What was an actual expectation on how that would work?
It depends again, just like you said, it depends on the area and the price point. There's a lot of different variables
Sure.
but average, 30, 60, 90 days. It was one of those things where it wasn't that first weekend. That's for sure.
Right.
I mean, if you had a cherry and it was perfect and everything was just all the stars aligned, that could happen. And that's when agents started touting, hey, we sold this home in the first week. Good for you. But when agents in the last couple of years have been talking about that, everyone's started ignoring them. Okay, every house is selling in the first week. Good for you.
Above asking, right?
Yeah.
Above asking, right?
So you really want to get on social media and make sure everybody knows that. I mean, nobody's living under a rock.
Right.
So that's a good segue, though. What I noticed is with the agents that came into the market to take advantage of the market, the non-career agents,
Mm-hmm.
they're falling out because they don't want to pay their dues and they don't want to take on the challenge. So they're either going to get jobs or they're not getting jobs at all. They just stay at home parents or something. But the agents that are staying around are taking massive action. That's what I've noticed. Maybe it's just a circle I'm running with and all the people that I see, but they're doing the right things. They're making the business plans.
Surrounding yourself with the right people, apparently.
But they identify the pillars of success,
Mm-hmm.
and they really have spent a lot of time, the people that I know, focusing on their craft, making sure they're educated on what's happening, making sure all of their stars are aligned, because in 23 we plan to run
Right.
in a good way. I don't think we plan on running like it was in the last couple of years. Nobody wants to do that. We were all hopeful that the market would end like that. Like at some point we're all like, oh, it'll be nice when this thing's over.
Calms
now we're here.
down.
Now everybody's freaking out. But
careful what you wish for.
yeah, no, I'm quite happy about it.
Yeah, no, it brings a little more level headedness to the market, right? When we had people buyers coming to the table to buy, a significant, like this is a big decision in people's lives, when you have them waiving inspections, offering over and all these things, when we really look back at it, is that really financially prudent, doing that? And I just read a statistic that many of the people that have bought over the last 2 years have a bit of buyer's remorse because they felt like they were pressed. FOMO, it would never stop going up. Homes will never stop going up. And now we start to see a little bit of that change, and people start thinking, well, shoot, I went over asking. Now maybe that part of that valuation is gone. And that's a wrong mindset to have towards a home anyway, right? It's your home. It's not a stock. You can't just flip on a dime. You can't just live under the, live under the bridge. We can't move those decisions, especially folks like ourselves, right? We have families. We can't just, we're going to trade our house in right now because it's a top value, and we're going to wait for the crash or correction or whichever way you want to slice it or dice it. We can't think it is an asset. Robert Kiyosaki would disagree. But it is, something that kind of over the last, I would say 20 years changed as housing became something that it wasn't necessarily our parents' age weren't thinking about. I bought a house, I'm going to sell it for 40% more and I'm going to go roll and do this. The parents didn't think that way. The 80s weren't like that. That was like a 2000 to now thought process. It's not the same. We can't do it with housing like that. It's just not feasible.
Yeah, housing's not Bitcoin.
No, it's not. You got to think it's different. There is obviously cost of home ownership, right? It's just different. Frankly, it's stability, and you got to look at it as somewhere where with a certain percentage, right? Because things will go wrong and you'll need to do things, and you'll be able to control what your nest egg for housing is, your roof. Because when you rent, we're riding the market always, right? And that is more so in that manner. So we can't necessarily think about, oh, we're going to go buy a house. And if it tomorrow or next year, we do have that recession gets finally announced and, values come down, you can't be looking at it saying, oh man, my house is, you're looking up at Zillow or whichever you get your data about value and, oh, it's down. I feel bad about, no, it's not about that, because it's about what's the stability. What did you buy it for? Did you buy it just to flip it? Then that's one thing, right? But the majority of housing decisions shouldn't be made on that. It should be, our kids got to go to school or, close to work or enjoyment. There's an added value that you can't quantify and calculate on a return.
Correct. Upsizing, downsizing.
Life.
What a lot of people don't even talk about, and this is not talked about enough, I think, but it's really common sense, but people are looking past it. When you sell a home in that market and you make a large profit,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to turn around and buy your next home, and that person likely will make a large profit. Buy
Mm-hmm.
high, sell high, or sell high, buy high, sell
Right.
low, buy low.
Mm-hmm.
What, I don't get that, right? Like, so if I were to sell a home that maybe a couple months ago was going to be 480,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's 4.25.
Mm-hmm.
I go to buy a home that's 580, but will be 5.25 now.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
Really isn't. I
It's
mean,
the same money in, money out.
yeah.
If anything, this is a better opportunity because you're less likely to be underwater at some point if it does adjust.
To step up, right? Like, now it might be a little different perspective on the step down, but it was the same thing, right? Because there was a price point. What was that first time home buyer entry, whichever you want to say, that was the hottest bucket, right? As the Gen Z millennial generations are becoming housing formation time. And it was a different, it was a push. The whole COVID, the whole pandemic, everything pushed everybody into, you should own a house, you should own a house, especially if you were up north, and it was a wild, wild time, which is the recipe's not there to continue, right? So that now things have changed and now people think there's something wrong. Maybe your listing is sitting and they're like, oh my gosh, did my agent's not doing their job? Well, hang on a second. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that the market dynamics and that fever has, kind of peeled back, and people are being a little more rational and have to be a little bit more rational because now we have, 7% interest rates or high 6% interest rates, depending on the day. It's different. It's different,
but it's not bad.
It's not, no, it just takes time. You got to understand that as a consumer, it's really easy to get used to 2% rates and, things flying off the market, right? Especially if you're a seller. It wasn't necessarily ever a good thing for the buyers. They never felt good about it. They were like, it took them a while to digest the fact that they might have to pay more and have to do some of these concessions, or maybe they're not going to get that dream home. They're going to get, oh, well, I have to, these 5 non-negotiables turned into really one thing that I'd really like to see, and the rest I'll have to work into eventually myself, right? So it takes a while for people's mindsets to change, the consumer to change, and to start normalizing the market. And I think that's kind of the period of time that we're finding ourselves in right now.
Yeah.
It's that normalization.
So the good agents and the good loan officers and mortgage brokers will excel as long as they understand this talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as they understand how to explain it to people, and as long as the people they're explaining it to are logical. So let me ask you this, Mel.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever buy Bath and Body Works 3-wick candles?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool. When do you buy them?
When you need them, basically, right? In generalities.
Whatever you want them, right? You go buy a
$5
3-wick candle, right?
Right.
But we all know around Christmas, those candles go on sale. There's this big one-day event, and they go on sale for like $12.99.
Right.
Okay. Just because you weren't able to buy that 3-wick candle around Christmas time for $12.99 doesn't mean you shouldn't buy it at all
Right.
throughout the year, right? Just go buy it. Get over
Right.
it. Just go buy it. If you want it, go buy it. If you want to move,
Mhm.
go move. If you want to downsize, go downsize. Get close to your grandkids, get close to your kids, move out of state, whatever it is. Don't let
100%.
don't let the media and all that hype get to you. That's been my big message lately. The media, boy, they play the biggest role in this whole thing, and it's all driven by the boys
Well,
upstairs.
well, it's funny because if you really listen to the media since 2012, they've always told you not to buy. Think about that process, right? If you rented from 2012 to 2020 or 2022, all that money that went to rent, right? That's, you have a housing and, or, you would say a roof over your head cost. There is a cost to this that's going to go to something, whether it's a mortgage, building yourself some equity and building something yours, or paying somebody else's. But also the appreciation that did happen. Now we're starting to maybe flatten or depreciate a bit, and people are like, "Oh my gosh!" Right? It's not that you shouldn't own. It's when you dissect it, when you take a still shot of it now. Sure, if we think about 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, when it's everything is kind of back to norm and we're in a growth cycle again, we're just fine, right? So you just can't make marginal decisions based on snapshots. Just these it's like you're just taking a picture of the end of the race or a portion of the race. Let's just say it's a track and field. You get off. The person who leads in the beginning doesn't mean that that's the winner of the race. So it's just you got to stop thinking about it in that fashion of right there. It's the same thing would go with stocks and that. Stop watching it. If you're not going to retire next year, don't even worry about it. Just don't even turn that, the CNBC, Fox, or anything. Nothing. Don't follow it
Oh, I hate
because
it.
it's just going to drive you insane.
So
Same thing with equity. Same thing with home equity. Don't make it a thing of stopping once a month to figure out what's my house worth. Why does it matter? Unless you're actually going to sell, why? It doesn't matter, right?
now I will tell you that Fidel and I pay for a system that if you go in the comments here and you leave your email address and your address, or actually don't do that, send it in a direct message to me. I'll set you up on this portal that we have, and it will send you an email every month telling you pretty much what your house is worth.
Mm-hmm.
We subscribe to that system. So that system is popular because there's people that want to know that, but it doesn't mean you should base all your decisions around that when you go to a house. Like, be smart about it. All these people that were paying all that money over weren't necessarily smart about it, but they really had no choice either. Like, that was the decision they made at the time. But now, like, for instance, I was on the phone with a client yesterday, and we have a couple pieces of land in Michigan that we're selling.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody wants to come in and build $1 million house on this one piece of property that he has.
Okay.
But it's not surrounded by $1 million homes. So he's worried about it. But it is 6.5 acres. It has water access. It's pretty nice. But the supporting area, the area does not support that house. So my client was like, well, please tell him that I'm building on the neighboring property, a $670,000 house.
Mm-hmm.
But I plan to, this is the key point. I plan to live there forever.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking to make that change and you're looking to move to your next home because you're just ready to, again, kids are out, so you got to scale down. More kids came into the picture, so you got to scale up. You want to move because you've been dying to get to a certain city or dying to get to a certain state.
Right.
Don't let this little stuff bother you, because homes are selling every single day, pending and selling and closing every single day.
Yep. Never stops. I don't care how bad. Even in the heart of 2008, it was still happening, right? The market, it doesn't stop. It continues to move. Like you were saying earlier about, trying to time markets, especially in real estate. They say the saying is, don't try to catch a falling knife, right? And that's trying to time a market. When in and out, it's just, you have to kind of come to an agreement and say, okay, this is the time that I want to make this upgrade or downsize, because, we're in, the golden years and we're trying to just peel back our expenses. You can't time it. It won't work. You might get lucky every now and then, but it's not a science, right? You can't just say, hey, when this happens, we do this. It's just not feasible. It's not feasible in the stock market. It's definitely not feasible in something like a real estate because it takes a little longer for that asset to go through that period. You can't just go sell and it was there. There was a bid ask and boom, it's gone. Not possible. So still, it's not whether it's right or wrong to do anything, it's whether it's right or wrong for you, right? As a personal consumer, when you're making the decision about your life, that's what it comes down to. Is it right or wrong for you? Not the market. Exactly nobody can tell you that.
So that's more to the consumer. But now, what would you say? What parting words? What would you say to loan officers that are newer in the business, are maybe on the fence do I stay in this profession or not? What do you say to them?
You know, what I would say is what is your internal actual motivation for doing this, right? Obviously, we all do this to put food on the table, to provide for our families, to, there are high earning potential in both our side of the field, right? It's completely, that's what it is. It's you get what you put into it, right? So know that we're entering a more regulated period, or where things kind of starting to regulate themselves, and the people who are in it for the wrong reason will end up, departing. If they were in it just for the money, they thought it was going to be a quick grab, quick cash grab, and anybody can do it. That's that troubled part,
Yeah. So I want to butt in there real quick. Agents, loan officers, or anybody in any profession that's servicing clients, if you're in it for the money as your primary goal, and you're only in it for the money, like you have dollar signs in your eyeballs and you're breathing commission breath.
There it is. My favorite saying that. Commission breath.
Get out. We'll see you later. Get out. Right? We don't need you here.
Right.
We really don't. We don't want you here. We don't want you here. If you're really interested, like you said, something about you have that passion and you really are interested in serving the client to the highest degree, and then that in turn will return a very nice living for you because you're a master at your craft and you got really good at what you do, and you live, eat, and breathe your business, then stay in. But by all means, treat it like a business. Don't treat it like a hobby, right? Because all the there's a store for that, right? There's a store. Go do hobbies somewhere else. Don't do it here. This is business, and it's also passion, and it's also serving people. And so that's my big kick on this right now. There's too many people that were in it just to make a buck, right? They're out there trying to help people and truly care about people, and there's other people that aren't. They're just in it, get it, and go.
Right. Well, that's always, I used to do real estate, or I used to do mortgages, right? You hear that often. I had my license, or I used to do this back then, or back here, or this period, in and out, in and out. You never really truly turned this into a career. That's a job, right? You just kind of, you might as well be punching in and out. But if that saying about not only do you like it, you love it, you live it. This is what you do. And that's a difference. And that carries over through everything, your tonality, the way you approach it, your clients feel it, right? So at the end of the day, you can't avoid people coming in and out. It's life. And maybe people think it's for them and they realize, hey, it's a lot harder than I thought it was, and that is possible. I call it, I say the mortgage business specifically is the easiest yet hardest profession to be, right? It's a very thin line that separates the ease from the most difficult thing. And it's your mindset. It's just, it's a very, there's not even a quantifiable thing that you can say, hey, this is what, and this is what doesn't. It's your own mind on how you approach and how you take care of people, right? And I think you can cross that into anything we do. You will find the best teachers, the best coaches, are the people who actually truly care about what their end user, whether it's a user, student, client, feel, right? Because we're and at the end of the day, we're in the consumer experience business, flat out. Doesn't matter. Yeah, we happen to do real estate, but we're in the consumer experience business.
100%. That's why a lot of these online companies are failing.
They come and go.
They're failing. They took advantage of the market, but they're failing.
Yep.
So Fidel, as always, it's great to have you on. We're going to have you on a lot.
Look forward to it.
I love it. I love being surrounded by professionals like you. And,
Likewise.
if you are in real estate or you are in mortgages and you really want to surround yourself with the right people, because if you don't, you won't last long in this business. You want to get best practices. You want to understand what people are doing. And by all means,
connect with us.
serve your clients. Serve your clients. It's clients first, commission second. They'll
Yep.
come. All right, brother. We're out. See ya.
That's it.